Welcome into the College Football Every Game on the Board podcast, simulcast live on the WagerTalk YouTube channel with our next guest up, Mid-Major Matt on Twitter at Mid-Major Matt. Matt, welcome in. How you feeling?
Feeling good, Drew. Good 2-0 start to the bowl season. I'm going to be selective this year, and certainly any plays I make are probably going to be day of or late night before with all the opt-outs and COVID situations and injuries and things like that. So yesterday we had Nevada, the team total over, and we had Nevada itself. So that was a nice, easy winner. I was kicking myself, Drew. I said to myself, I'm like, there's no way UCF is ever going to stop BYU. And I was so close to taking the BYU team total over 41.5, and I didn't actually do it. And, of course, it went over. So I'm kicking myself for missing that easy winner.
Well, guys, we're doing Friday and Saturday's card here, December 25th and December 26th. But talking about that game, Mid-Major Matt, I went to it last night and walked behind the UCF sideline and then made my way around to the BYU sideline. It was there was a pretty stark difference in the look of the athletes on both sides. And I know, this isn't the same UCF team from years past, 2017, 2018 style of UCF. But I think that all these, the opt-outs, the kicking the other five guys with the gun issue in the car off the team, I mean, it really showed. I think that they were down athletes. Not that I think they were. They definitely were. And they were getting pushed around up front, man.
Yeah, it was men against boys. It was guys who are hardened and played plenty of football versus guys who, are athletes who are used to just out-quicking everybody and just everybody. Dylan Gabriel is used to guys just flashing open, and they just couldn't get open against BYU, which was very impressive because, there's been some times where BYU's gone up against athletic teams and they've struggled, and they clearly did not last night.
Yeah, that BYU team is good, Mid-Major Matt. I mean, they're only lost to Coastal Carolina across the country on 2 days' notice. I would love to see this BYU team against one of the big boys.
Yeah, and I mean, to say that Coastal Carolina part, I'd love to see Coastal Carolina play one of the big boys. Coastal Carolina's defense held BYU in check when it mattered, and we're not going to see it, but to me, and this is not the place for that, Ohio State doesn't belong in the championship. They played 6 games, and they barely played anybody good in those 6 games, and they barely won the 2 games against the 2 teams that were good. But another time, another place, Drew. I know my ranting for this is going to go on deaf ears because the committee doesn't really care. They just all see dollar signs.
Well, we got 4 games here, guys. One of them it looks like already canceled, but we'll make our way down, and we've I guess already spent 3 minutes recapping, so that's enough. But Johnny Outlaw saying he played BYU team total over 38.5. That was definitely the play for last night's game out of any of them, was BYU minus the points and their team total over. Oh, and by the way, to everybody out there that had the over in the game, and I'm talking to myself here, Mid-Major Matt, that was a bad beat. Do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I thought I was, as entering the fourth quarter, I said, if you have an over ticket, you're in trouble. Because once it got to the fourth quarter, you thought, okay, maybe one more drive with Zach Wilson, and that was about it. And yeah, you should have. That's why you potentially looked at the first half over, and then, when everybody's focused. But who knew it was going to be such a blowout? I saw a lot of people who took a UCF plus the points, and they clearly thought it was going to be one of these back and forth video game affairs. And it was to some extent, but only in the first half.
Yeah, it was fun, but UCF, they had no business going back and forth with BYU. But guys, let's get into the games here. Matt, we got Christmas special here, Friday, December 25th at 2:30 in the afternoon Eastern time, 11:30 a.m. Pacific. Marshall at Buffalo. We're seeing the Buffalo Bulls -4 or -4.5 as we're talking right now. 54 being the total, Matt.
So, as I said, a lot of these bowl games, it's hard to kind of look so far ahead for them because there's so many things that could happen. As we said, the COVID, the opt-outs, injuries, all this stuff. So I'm going to give a lot of information out, but I'm also going to tell people to wait until we get closer because a lot of things could happen before then. So you look at both these teams. They both lost in their title games, and both of them were expected to win their title games. They're both favored. I won't pat myself on the back too much for the Ball State call on the MAC because they won. But Buffalo, you look at this Buffalo team, what's their mindset at? I mean, this is a team that should have been a MAC champion. They should have had a better bowl game. They should be in someplace else. And instead, they're in Montgomery, Alabama. No offense to anybody in the chat who lives or is near Montgomery, Alabama. But I mean, what's Buffalo thinking right now? Jared Patterson's expected to play. He injured his knee. Now, look, Jared Patterson's nice, and if for some reason he doesn't play, I like the Marks kid. I've said that on our podcast multiple times. I like the Marks kid almost more than the Patterson kid in terms of NFL potential. Buffalo's got a good defense. I thought the same about Marshall until these last couple of games. Their offense kind of disappeared on them. You lose 20-0 to Rice. You lose 22-13 to UAB in the title game, and they had 7 straight wins, and you're wondering what's going on with Marshall. And then you read Brendan Knox, the big-time running back, has opted out. Linebacker Tavante Beckett getting ready for the draft. He's opting out. And then an offensive lineman who's really good, Josh Ball, is opting out. And you wonder if that's kind of a mindset of a team when you start to get the stars that are basically saying, yeah, I don't want to play anymore. Marshall's had a really good history. They're 7-1 against the spread in their last 8 bowl games. To me, as I said, Drew, it's a thing that I don't want to guess where these two teams' heads are at. I don't want to guess because Buffalo is probably the better team. You probably can lean to the under here, but do you really feel comfortable taking unders in bowl games, especially with two teams who could be highly unmotivated? If this was a week 4 game and the total would be 53.5, but I'd take the under because both of these defenses are really good, and Marshall should be able to slow down Buffalo's running attack and make them one-dimensional, make the Van Treese kid beat them. But it's a December 25th game on Christmas. I don't know where their head's at. Drew, do you have any thoughts on this game?
Yeah, it's definitely a tough handicap. To tell you the truth, just profile bet-wise, I don't want Buffalo outside of playing MAC games. I really don't, Matt, because I think that a lot of their success this season, which they had a great year, was just being able to push around their opponents up front and create the holes. Whereas now when you're going up against a Marshall team that, I think, has the athletes, the better athletes, if you just went top to bottom on the roster. And that's what worries me about betting Buffalo, because they're not a team that can go shotgun, spread you out and kind of catch up if they fall behind. That is not where you want to be betting Buffalo. I bet Buffalo a bunch this season, but I did bet them in that MAC championship game. And just because I thought they were going to be able to roll over Ball State, and they weren't. And then you saw what happened. Like, I think the score actually looked worse than the game really was, because that's not where you want to be betting Buffalo. You want to be betting Buffalo when they can kind of push the other team around. And I don't think they're going to be able to push Marshall around. So I like the underdog here.
Yeah. Oh, boy. This is live radio, and the exterminator's here to squirt the apartment. So he's going to come walking in a moment. So I'll let him do his work. So what were you asking me?
I was just letting you know that I like the underdog here, and hey, it is a live podcast here. We're simulcast live on the WagerTalk YouTube channel. So hey, we get what we get, right?
Why don't you take the next? Just talk for a minute, and I'll take care of this. I'll be right back.
No, dude. All right. Mid-Major Matt will be right back, guys. I'll just shout out the chat box here. We got Robert Rainey. What is up, man? He's saying hello, Drew, and hello, Matt. Robert Rainey, a fan of the show, and I'm a fan of yours. Robert, thanks for reaching out on Twitter. He's a truck driver located in the Reno, Nevada area, and he likes listening to the shows and putting a couple shekels down on some games. So he's had a good year so far. And Robert, hopefully you're driving safe and you make it home safely for the holidays. We got Johnny Outlaw in here. Marshall screwed me the last 2 games. So it's Buffalo team total or pass. Well, Johnny, I mean, look, this isn't one of the games I'm really confident in, but I can tell you this. I'm usually not a proponent of betting MAC teams in bowl games. When you start talking about, caliber of athlete and where a conference ranks, the MAC is the lowest. It is what it is. It's just athlete-wise, recruiting-wise, having to go into bowl games, and it shows in their record. The long-term record is not very good for the MAC. So that's why I don't like betting MAC teams. But heck, especially MAC teams laying points. Now they were able to beat Charlotte last year, and I took the loss in that game. But still, it is type of a profile where I'm not really looking to bet Buffalo in this game. So guys, we got Johnny Outlaw in here, Robert Rainey as well. UCF over made it, Drew. Actually, it depends what number you got it at, but at the end there, BYU, I was just brought it up with Matt in terms of it being a bad beat. That might be kind of a reach, but BYU was driving to punch in the last touchdown, and they ended up kneeling the ball right outside the UCF goal line to hit the over. So that's why, I mean, it was really tough if you bet the over. I do feel like it was the right side. It's just, heck, that's betting, and if you bet enough, it definitely happened to you. And I bet the over last night, and it happened to me. So that was a tough one. But Matt, hopefully everything's okay there in your apartment, man.
Yeah, just the standard thing. I knew he was supposed to stop by today, and thought maybe it was going to be earlier, but live television here, so had to step away for a moment. But yeah, and just to talk about the other game real quick. I mean, it's just, as you said, you don't have to bet every game. I know the purpose of this thing is to give out information for every game, but sometimes, as we said, I don't want to guess what 19 and 20-year-old kids are thinking, especially on Christmas. We don't get bowl games a lot on Christmas, and so you've got two disappointed teams playing each other. In theory, that cancels each other out, but who knows?
Yeah, and we got Darren here saying MAC teams are hungrier than big name schools. Darren, that's actually a good point to be betting on MAC schools, because motivation is such a key issue when betting bowl games, and I don't disagree with you. A lot of times they are hungrier. Now, this situation, I don't know if either of them are particularly hungry to be here. Like Matt talked about, Buffalo had their looks at the MAC champion and being in a better bowl game, and Ball State kind of ruined that for the Buffalo Bulls program. So I don't know how hungry they are here, Matt.
Yeah, exactly. It's a pass for me. Most likely, if I get involved, it'll be a game day thing just to make sure there's no other shenanigans. If we get a clearer view on Jared Patterson and what he's doing, so it's an easy pass for me.
Matt, we got a December 26th card here for the last of the days that we're going to be breaking down right now, because the next slate of bowl games isn't until Tuesday, December 29th. So we'll be able to break it down next Tuesday. But let's get after it here. Saturday, December 26th card with Matt Josephs on sportsmemo.com. Check him out. He's got all kind of packages available, and follow him on Twitter at Mid-Major Matt. So this is we'll go in rotation order here. So 283, 284, 7:30 Eastern kick on Saturday night. We got Liberty in Coastal Carolina on ESPN, 59 being the total. Looks like Coastal -7. There is a couple -7.5s out there, but the prevailing number, Coastal Carolina -7 versus Liberty, Matt.
So this is what the committee does. They take a team like Coastal and they say, okay, we're going to reward you for your season. You're going to play another non-Power 5 school. And I mean, look, this is going to be a great game. It's going to be the best game of the day, but it's two teams who should be playing Power 5 schools to truly show how good they are. Of course, if you don't remember, this is the game that was scheduled originally, I believe, when BYU came in. This was supposed to be the game in Coastal. And then, of course, Liberty had COVID issues and Coastal replaced BYU. You look at this Liberty team, they've been off for a month since winning against UMass. I talked to my Liberty guy. He said that because they had COVID issues, he said everybody's going to be available. There's no sort of issues there. And I think Liberty's going to want to be there. They played their first ever bowl game last year when they beat Georgia Southern 23-16. They should be really excited to be in this game. They run for 252.1 yards. These two teams are literally mirror images of each other. Malik Willis and Grayson McCall, the way they run the ball, the way they play defense, these two teams are literally mirror images of each other. For that reason, I like Liberty here, especially if you can get a 7. If there's 6.5s out there and you want to buy it up to 7 to feel more comfortable, I think this is way too many points. You've got a Coastal Carolina team that I'm assuming will be happy to be there. 11-0 regular season. They're going to be disappointed, but I think when you're Coastal Carolina making your first ever bowl appearance, you're happy no matter where it is. And not only that, you're going to want to go out there and you're going to want to beat the crap out of Liberty to show everybody you belonged in higher. The question for Coastal is, they were the ones who had some COVID issues for the Sun Belt Championship game. I haven't heard who has it. I haven't heard who doesn't have it. I have no idea who's available. Coastal's a smaller school, so they don't necessarily have to tell us. There's not as many spies involved in this team. So to me, I like Liberty now. And if we find out that there's any sort of COVID issues for starters for Coastal, this number is going to come down. So if you can get 7 somehow, I think Liberty's the play here. And I actually lean to the under, Drew. I know it's hard to take unders in bowl games, but both of these defenses are better than people think. Of course, Coastal Carolina defense is really good. And they practice against Liberty's offense essentially with their own offense. So to me, I like Liberty as my play here, especially if you can get a +7. And I lean to the under here because I think these two teams are mirror images of each other.
All right, good stuff there. Coastal Carolina, the Liberty Flames. Good breakdown, Matt. We got 2 games left. That's it, guys, because the South Carolina UAB game question here in the chat box was at least suspended, Matt. Do you know if UAB is going to find another opponent?
I think it's canceled, unfortunately. Although we could try and get BYU in there. I saw you say that last night. Let's get BYU and UAB playing.
That wouldn't be bad. I mean, that's a good UAB team.
Very good.
I had them circled here to be betting them against South Carolina, and the market was onto it. -6.5 against an SEC team. That was one that I was actually looking to bet. So we got Louisiana Lafayette, UTSA up next. We're seeing the Ragin' Cajuns -14 versus the UTSA Roadrunners, 55.5 being the total here, Matt. This one in Gerald J. Ford Stadium.
So at SMU's campus then. So here's a couple of things that stand out for me here. I mean, obviously this is a bad matchup. I mean, it's it's a really good Sun Belt school, Lafayette, Louisiana, getting the win in the championship. Excuse me, there was no championship, but they would have been. Right, exactly. They split it. So Lafayette's been off since December 5th when they won that game at App State. They've won 6 straight. Last year they won their bowl game against Miami, Ohio, 27-17. And the biggest news for me here, Drew, and I know it's sad for you, is that Billy Napier turned down the Auburn job. And that's kind of a momentum boost, I would say, for teams that basically your coach said, hey, I'm staying with you guys. I believe in you guys. Lafayette, we know what they do. They run the ball. Mitchell and Ragus, the 2 running backs, are pretty good. They're pretty good running backs. I like Levi Lewis at quarterback. Their team totals around 34.5 or so. So, Vegas is expecting them to score. There's a lot to like on this Lafayette team. On the UTSA side, it's been a weird season for UTSA. They lose several quarterbacks to injury. They've had some good wins. They've had some bad losses. They hung tough with Army for a little bit, but they've also been off for almost a month. Now, look, there is for the early bowl games, the last game probably is I'm trying to think, Drew, if this was a normal season, a team's last game probably would have been last week or maybe 2 weeks ago. So the fact that they've been off since November 28th is a concern, but it's not really a concern because, it's kind of a normal bowl layoff. UTSA beat North Texas 49-17 in that game. UTSA hasn't been in a bowl game since 2016 when they lost to New Mexico in the New Mexico Bowl. So they'll be happy to be there. They're closer to home. It's in Dallas, Texas. I don't know, Drew. Nothing really stands out to me in this game. Part of me wants to take UTSA plus the points. They're closer to home. Now, there's not going to be much of a home field advantage, if any, here. Both of these teams want to run the ball. Sincere McCormick was a really good running back for UTSA. We mentioned the Louisiana running backs. Nothing really sticks out for me here. How about you?
I mean, for me, it'd be Lafayette or pass, but I do need to kind of be upfront. Like UTSA wasn't a team I had ping this season. I didn't see a lot of their action, so I usually tend to kind of pump the brakes on going big whenever that situation happens. But Lafayette, I'm not looking to go against them. I think they were a really good team before the Sun Belt championship game against Coastal Carolina. I bet personally Louisiana Lafayette plus the 3.5. And sure enough, it got, canceled. But still, that kind of speaks to what I think about this program. Now, having to lay 2 touchdowns here is a different story, but it should be good weather, and I think they can run it up. So it would be the Ragin' Cajuns or pass. Mid-major, Matt, oh, yeah, go ahead, man.
Well, and this is another game that Saturday is a couple days away. Things could happen since then. Levi Lewis could opt out. Who knows? The Ragus kid could opt out. I mean, it's just there's a lot of things that could happen. That's why I'm saying, especially for a game like this where there's not a clear angle, wait till closer. Maybe somebody opts out. Maybe COVID rears its ugly head, unfortunately, in one of these programs. But there's no early angle here. So to me, it's a wait and see. I don't know if there'll be an angle on Saturday either, Drew, but I think this is a clear wait and see.
Levi Lewis opting out. Were you just saying that, or is there like rumors of that?
No. I'm just saying that if Levi Lewis did opt out, I'm not saying he is. I'm doing a quick Google search. There's nothing out there. I'm just saying that he's a big enough name that if he did, it would cause me to go to UTSA. So Lafayette's the better team here. 14's a lot of points to cover in a bowl game. Especially when you've got, a Lafayette team that hasn't played since December 5th. UTSA's layoff has been longer, so it could be rusty. Maybe you look at a Lafayette first quarter, get on the board first, score an early touchdown on a UTSA team that hasn't played in a while. That's a possibility to do. Take Lafayette in the first half, maybe. But I like these first quarter bets, Drew. We've had some success with first quarter bets this year. Maybe Lafayette gets that first drive. They go right down the field. They score a touchdown. You win your bet. You're done. That's it.
Matt, I have a question for you, but first, about how long teams take off in a normal year. There is usually one weekend with no football, and then bowl games start. So those first games, usually have 2 weeks of preparation time. But also it depends when you would end. Each team would end their season. And coming into this, like BYU was one of those teams. I think they only had like 9 days off or something like that, and UCF had a very long period of time off. And we saw what happened in that. So that's kind of a situation I want to watch, teams that had a long period off versus teams that, maybe under 2 weeks might be a betting angle there. And Matt, I brought up, Gerald J. Ford name, and you knew right away SMU's campus. How many stadium names would you know out of all of the FBS schools?
I mean, that was a guess merely because you said the name and because it's Texas. So I mean, I don't even know if it's right. I'm assuming I'm right. I'm hoping I'm right, but that's not. It's only because I knew it was Texas and Dallas, and the SMU's near Dallas. So that's kind of why because you did say, Texas. So I narrowed it down a little bit.
Okay, so it's not something where you got like a secret talent of being able to rattle off every school stadium.
No.
Okay.
No. By the way, Todd asked what the first half team total is. On one book, it is 17.5. It's a lot. The first quarter total is 7.5, so that might even be too high if you think they're going to get 7-0. But I just said that maybe you take Louisiana's first quarter spread, and it's probably going to be with a 14. I'm going to guess a 2.5, maybe 3. I'm guessing, so maybe a little bit higher. So, or you could take Lafayette to score first, but of course, since they're favored, it's going to be like minus 200. So there's a couple ways to attack it, but I think Lafayette scores first here. I think they can jump out on UTSA. They have a good enough defense to stop the Roadrunner. So somehow, if you want to monetize Lafayette scoring first in that first quarter, then go for it.
Mid-major, Matt, next game up, and it's the last one. Western Kentucky versus Georgia State, 2A7, 288, the rotation number 3:30 Eastern kick. This one on ESPN. We got 50.5 being the total. Georgia State minus 3.5 in Ladd-Peebles Stadium in Mobile, Alabama, the home of the USA Jaguars.
See, now you're trying to impress me here by saying that. I see how it is.
That's one that I know. The Senior Bowl is always played there.
That's right. You're correct. So this is another dog of a game, but I actually kind of like this game in terms of Western Kentucky hasn't suddenly found offense. Their team total is 23.5. They've been off since December 6th when they won 37-19 at Charlotte. Interesting stat here for Western Kentucky, Drew. They've scored 75 points the last 2 weeks. The 6 games before that, they scored 67 points total. So I am leaning more towards the fact that they're not an offensive juggernaut. It's more so they found 2 of the right opponents in Conference USA. Last year, they won their bowl game 23-20 at the First Responder Bowl. And Tyrell Pegram, he averages just 5.4 yards per attempt. So this is a Western Kentucky offense that's not going to go deep. They're not going to bust out, I think, for big-time points here. 23.5, as Johnny has there, is the team total. I'm not necessarily ready to take the under there, but I don't think Western Kentucky's adding a lot of points to a game total, which is where I want to go here. I'm taking the under here. Georgia State has been off since November 28th. They've been really good to me this year. I really like Cornelius, the quarterback. I think it's Cornelius Brown. Yep. He's been really good. They run the ball. Destin Coates and Tucker Gregg average over 4.5 yards per carry here. And they played a bowl game last year. Now, granted, they lost 38-17 to Wyoming, but it was also the Arizona Bowl. So they flew quite a while to play Wyoming. And that was a good Wyoming team last year. I just think that, look, Georgia State's defense isn't great, but you can beat them through the air. They've got more of a rush defense that's really good. Their pass defense is okay, but I just don't see how Western Kentucky scores a ton in this game. To me, this is an under, and I probably would get down on the under now. See, here's the thing. So I've told people to kind of hold off on the bets, but there's really nothing here in terms of a player that could come out that would make me say, yeah, I want the over. Unders bet, stars. More stars playing benefit the under, I feel like, in terms of, let's say Pegram doesn't play. The under is going to fall even more. Let's say Destin Coates doesn't play. Well, the under is going to tumble a little bit. So to me, especially at this number. What did you say the number was, and what's it widely at?
The total for Georgia State, Western Kentucky is 50.5.
Yeah, so at 50.5, especially, you get above that key number of 49. Now, we, of course, fall short of the 51 because it always seems to finish at like 27. I mean, obviously, with the spread being this tight, they were clearly saying Georgia State's winning 27-24 because I'm sure it probably opened to 51 or so, and it's falling a little bit. So to me, I like the under in this game. I would take the under now. I would go small on it, sprinkle. You should never make huge bets in bowl games anyway. Drew, I don't know about you. I don't really want to make huge bets in bowl games because, as I said, I don't want to figure out these teams. Now, once we get to like the championship game and things like that, the bigger bowl games, then it's okay because there's more knowns. There's so many unknowns in these smaller bowl games. And you could tell early on, like first quarter last night, UCF had very, very little interest. Once they didn't score the first couple times and BYU was up, you could tell that UCF had no interest anymore. So to me, you keep your bet size small in these bowl games. And I like the under here. I think Georgia State's the better team. I think Georgia State's going to be able to move the ball in Western Kentucky. Western Kentucky's got a good defense themselves, but I think Georgia State can win this game. Maybe you tie in. I don't know how many places have like a same game parlay or anything like that. Maybe you do a little sprinkle of the Georgia State money line and the under in this game and see if you can't get yourself a little parlay there. Some books don't allow you to do same game parlays like that, but just a suggestion. I don't see it.
Sounds like we got a little bit of a technical difficulty here with mid-major Matt. His screen's frozen. My guess is either his internet went out or his computer ran out of battery, and looks like he's back now. Mid-major Matt, you got me?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. All right, man. So, we got most of your analysis there. Guys, check them out. Sportsmemo.com, 79-53 in college football this season. That's 60%. He's also 63% in college football team totals. Look at his college basketball as well. Off to a good start here, 57%. That's 43-33. High volume out the gate in college basketball and hitting at a winning percentage here, 57%. NFL totals as well, doing very, very good here at a 76% clip in the last, about 35 plays. So short sample size, but really knocking him down. He's got a free play up in college basketball as well. Check him out, sportsmemo.com. Matt Joseph's also on Twitter at midmajor Matt. Midmajor Matt, do you want to leave us with a most confident play? Anything to end it here before we shut this down?
It's the under in the Georgia State game. That's my favorite. Liberty +7 is probably my second favorite. And then the third would be some sort of Georgia State money line. I think Georgia State wins that game on Saturday.
All right, look towards the Panthers. I like them as well. So follow them on Twitter at midmajor Matt, guys. Best of luck with your bets, and we'll be right back with Minty Bets in the NFL every game on the board.